Alrighty, in this video we're going to just kind of jump right into it because we're going to have a lot to cover and I'm hoping not to bore you guys. We are going to talk about how to get an aftermarket panel, which I'll be honest with you, if you can find a panel that'll fit your car, that's going to be your best bang for your buck. The time it takes to make these panels just is trumped by the cost. This panel was like 62 bucks. It's the entire floor. It is made of 18 gauge steel, which is the closest you're going to get to what they used when these cars were built. The way they measure steel, today you'd probably be like a 17 gauge. This is a tiny bit thinner than what they would have used back then, but that's okay. It's already got all the ribs rolled in there for strength and bead rolled. It's already bent to the right shape. It's got the right curves. Most of them are press fit. This is still going to be your best bang for buck, but there are things you need to do to make them fit properly. There's no such thing as a direct fit panel, and I'll explain why in this video. So bear with me. I'm going to walk you through this stuff, but there's a couple things we got to do in prep. One, you've got to get your old hole, all your old rust cut out. So underneath this and some of my shorts, you guys have already seen it. When it comes to moving these panels around, because it's loud in here, I'm going to pause the camera. I'm not doing anything crazy behind the scenes. I'm just trying to protect you headphone users and you guys at work from getting your eardrums blown out and hating me. So bear with me. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to walk you guys through it step by step, hopefully without being boring. All right, we've got the new panel out of the way so you can see where it was cut. The cab mount is actually missing a section because it was just dead rotten. But these trucks and a lot of cars of the era, they all typically rust in the floor pans in the same place. Where you rest your heel for the throttle and the brake. This truck was a manual, so you see how small the brake pedal is, but they'll typically rust down here in the bottom. One, that's where water settles, and two, that's where your heels are constantly grinding dirt and debris in, and it actually helps erode the steel away. When you're grinding that, think of it as like a grinder, and glass is made from sand, so you're just grinding shards of unprocessed glass basically into your metal, and it speeds up the erosion process and the corrosion process. And then most of these trucks in particular had a rubber mat that when water got underneath from the firewall side here and it would go underneath the floor mat, it was trapped. So that sped up the corrosion process. So it's a super typical place to have rust. So this is going to be a repair that a lot of guys will run into their hot rods and their old school cars needing. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the simpler steps and how to get one of these panels to fit better with your basic tools that you buy. You see, I'm not using anything fancy for any of these jobs. I'm trying to show you guys how to do them in your own driveway, in your own backyard. The truck's just sitting on jack stands. So here we go. Let's start walking through some of the finer points, all right? All right, so I've got the pan sitting down here on the floor. You can see it's really tied up in the corner, but down here there's a gap. Now what I see a lot of people doing is they try to draw a straight line between this corner up here coming down to somewhere, and they're just kind of guessing where you want, and that's a mistake because you'll end up taking too much material out. You'll scoot the whole floor pan over too far this way, and then it's going to get too far away from your other side for you to be able to properly fit it, and then things get all kinds of out of whack. So one thing that I use is this is just a piece of metal banding off of, if you've ordered anything that comes on a pallet, you've got a piece of this banding that comes with it. The reason I use it is it's very flexible, easy to shape, but it always holds this straight edge. So I can run it down in here, so I can draw a straight line point to point, and it never distorts the straightness of that line. So I can mark where I want to cut this panel to help scoot it over with just a straight line. So rather than bore you guys with every cut, I'm going to make a mark here, and I'm going to start cutting this in slowly, and the video is going to jump here, and I'm going to have made a couple of these cuts, but I'll walk you through the cuts that I did. But I just want to show you some of the stuff that I use in order to do that. Very simple tools, but they're very effective, and they never let me down. Now, before I cut this piece, I did want to show you guys what I meant by taking little bits at a time. So I've marked what I'm going to cut from the top side down to about the center of where that gap was. And I also came down here and I marked where the edge of the A-pillar was. And then I cut back to where that gap was standing off. You just want to cut a little bit, right? Because we don't want to move that side of the panel too extremely to where we can't get it to fit down, because we're dealing with curved surfaces, rounded edges, all kinds of complex stuff. So little bits at a time. The other reason that I marked where the edge of the A-pillar is it does not matter how far this way this portion of the panel sticks for right now. It does not matter, because we can cut this in a nice straight line to match the factory panels. Once we get this all the way finished, we can cut this last to make a nice, beautiful finished edge here down by our footwell, where that's where we close up our floor. We've got a nice piece of stainless trim. It holds our carpet down. That's got to be in a nice spot as well. So I'm going to cut these. I'll probably make several cuts on this side. Once I get this cut in, I'll start showing you what we do around the edges over here of the more complex side. And the goal is to get this all dialed in so you can just see how we rough fit a panel. And then this weekend, we'll get it welded in and we'll make our next long video. So I'm going to stop the video, make a couple cuts, and we'll pick up once this side's fitted, and I'll show you how that ended up. All right, we've made just those two cuts. They're still fairly rough, but I wanted to show you how just this little bit of material cut off with a set of hand shears, right? That's all that was removed for this piece. It now tucks up tight to the A-pillar. It's tight all the way up here. It sticks out past the A-pillar in the door frame, hangs well over, but is starting to fit nice and tight over here in the corners. Okay, that's what I mean by take your time. Small pieces, little adjustments at a time is going to make a big difference on these panels. They are made bigger for a reason, but don't go in there like Hacksaw Jim Duggan and just hacking stuff off, because you're going to make a mistake. You're going to cost yourself more time and money. Little tiny cuts goes a long way. So we're going to keep moving this stuff over, fitting it down and in. That's going to shrink this down. And then what you do is I'll mark from the bottom side the hole that we've cut out underneath the truck. You use your paint marker from the bottom. You know, I like to put a little bit of weight in here because it holds it down where I need it to be. It's not down all the way in the back yet, but it'll hold the panel down where I need it to sit. I'll grab my paint marker and I'll mark the bottom, and then you cut just outside that mark so it's still a little big, because remember I made that short the other day about cutting panels in. And we'll cut this panel in all the way around so it's a nice fit with just a tiny gap for welding. Get our panel clamps, line everything up, and we'll start welding this bad boy in. So little tiny cuts, you know, go a very long way with this. And we'll just keep nipping away at this thing, and I'll show you how it fits along the way before I weld this thing in. All right, guys, I made one more little cut that was about from right here to right here, just to kind of clean up this little bit in here. And I nipped away right here where these little ribs are in the footwell area, just to move it a little bit. But I wanted to show you how those tiny little cuts that take just 2 minutes with a set of hand shears, just these guys, that's all I used. And this thing is flush up against the back. It's flush in here. It's tucked nice in the corner. It's sitting down nice. It's trimmed to fit along here. But the panel's all the way in already. and I took just a couple minutes. Knowing where to trim when you go into it makes all the difference in the world. It will make you a better finished product, and it will get the job done right if you just have a little bit of patience. It doesn't take long. It's not a crazy amount of skill. Just take your time, go into it. Small adjustments make a big difference. So now I'll go underneath. I'll move our light, this guy, underneath so I can see. I'll do some marking under there, and we'll get ready to trim and cut this whole thing in. And then we'll check fitment again, and we just repeat the process over and over until this panel is in. So that's the basics of how you get panels fitted, remembering that none of these panels come as a perfect fit. Matter of fact, this is for a 67 and up Ford. My truck's a 66. They had tiny differences in the floor pans, not enough to be worried about it. They don't make a pan specifically for a 66. That's fine. If you know what your truck is, or your car, or what you're working with, and you don't have a sought after model that they're just stamping repop parts for, you can get the job done. If you want to learn how to make these panels, I'm sure later on as this stuff goes, I'll be doing how-to videos on that type of thing. I do make a lot of panels. I'll start giving you guys a history of where I started doing heavy fab work like this, some of the cars I've worked on. Some of y'all have probably seen some of my work. Nobody asks who did your metal work, so a lot of us metal guys don't get the Aaron Kaufman like praise, but we're not really in it for that. We just genuinely love doing this stuff. So I'm going to share what I can here, teach what I can here, and show you guys what I can. The next video will be the stuff from underneath. I'll show you guys how to mark that out and how to cut it the right way, meaning so you don't take too much. If you take too much material off, it's a lot harder to add material than it is to make just another cut, right? So you want to do little cuts at a time so you don't take too much material. That's going to guarantee your better finished product and less frustration, a lot less Tylenol, and less screaming and throwing stuff. So that's what we're here for, right? Make cool cars, do cool things, less stress. So hope you guys are liking the videos. Please share and subscribe. The shorts seem to be getting a lot more attention. I know that some of these videos can be boring. I apologize for that. I don't have an editing crew. It's just me, and I'm literally talking to a cell phone right now. So I'm doing what I can. I'm sure as we go we'll get better. The next video I make will be from the underside, and I'll show you guys how to mark, how to cut that out, how to get it fitted, and how to use these little guys to get it sitting in the right place so that your welding gaps are correct. And then of course I butt weld all my panels, and I'll get on in all that in future videos, but I'm just showing you guys how to do it. Now I've got to get to work and get some stuff done. We'll see you guys on the next one. I appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoy. Give it a like, share with your friends, have them subscribe. It keeps me going. Thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate every single one of you that interact with me on here. It means the world to me. Y'all keep working.